one out. Oh, I can't spend the nose. Oh, can you tell me who? Yeah, this bottle is so
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you see it?
Just kind of showing you guys building stuff back.
Yeah. I'm glad you stopped by. Take him to him, baby. Take him up again. Oh, can you tell me who? Yeah.
This is live or no?
No, it'll go a couple weeks. Yeah, it's gonna
But this is like a
little intro music. Mike Basch, welcome back, brother.
What's up, buddy?
Thanks for taking the time, man.
Yeah.
Dude, like I was saying, greatest Instagram follow in my world. Tell me your Instagram really quick just so we can get shouted out.
I think it's Mike, MIKE.BASCH. Bash is my last name.
Beautiful. Check it out, everybody. This man is painfully curious with his projects. I mean, like, it's overwhelming to watch the sheer amount of things going on. But let's talk about the most recent, the Moorline Mansion.
Yeah, so this is a long deal. My business partner and I, his name's Stu, we had a building basically that we were about to close on. It's been about 2 years ago. Long story short, we bought the building from the port, which is a government entity. The port is, the city created it to basically get problematic properties into the hands of developers. But the problem with buying stuff from the port is that these buildings that you're getting sometimes have a long, troubling past, right?
Yeah.
You know, they've been foreclosed on, and then after the foreclosure, somebody else got them that was a hoarder, and so the building we got is an amazing property, and it's got a lot of history that we can talk about. But literally right before we were going to close on it, a woman that used to live there 15 years ago sued the port, and for 2 years we waited for the lawsuit to go away.
Holy shit. So what's the lawsuit based on?
It was very frivolous. There was really no means for anything, but they were claiming some racial aspects to her foreclosure.
Gotcha. Which foreclosures are odd enough, but when a building is foreclosed on, you pretty much are stripped of the rights to the property, and then it's taken in by the city?
So she was foreclosed on by a bank.
Okay.
At the time, the port had nothing to do with the property. It was just a bank it was a large bank that we're aware of, had a lien on the property. She was paying a mortgage. I believe she just stopped paying, was probably warned multiple months, and then eventually the bank took the property. The banks have a very strict set of rules when they do foreclose on for this exact purpose, right? They want to make sure that when the time comes to take a property that they checked all the boxes.
Yes, because the last thing they want to do is have that kind of problem-stricken asset on their books. They're
Exactly.
cash.
Yeah. I mean, this is off topic, but I just bought a car the other day, and I know a guy as an attorney, and when you go buy a car and you go to the financial department at the very end, and the last person.
Yeah.
I know an attorney that, like, he was telling me, he's like, dude, you'd be shocked at how much they pay you to do this. And I realized that these car dealerships are willing to pay top dollar so that they make sure that everything in the financial department is done right, so that none of these deals can ever be neglected or could ever be reversed. You know what I'm saying? And so it's similar to that there was a very strict amount of rules so long story short, we knew from the start that this lawsuit had no merit.
Yeah.
The scary thing is that in order to get the property, when you buy a building from 3CDC, the city, the model, they will sell you the building, but the problem is in order to buy the building, you have to have your building permit. Okay, so at the closing table, I have to have a building permit already.
Building permit for that site,
that exact building I'm buying. Yeah. Okay, and so in order to get the building permit, we got to spend a ton of money, right? Yeah. So this recent project, we had more than $45,000 into the building.
Before
the lawsuit, right? And so literally, we're 2 days away from closing. We're emailing with the bank, hey, we're going to close on X day at what X time, and then this woman appeared out of nowhere. We didn't even know she existed. We have nothing to do with it, right? And so her lawsuit named the property, and so it derailed things for a while.
Jesus. And so when y'all are scoping out properties like this for whatever plans you might have, and by this point in time, how many buildings have you rehabbed and done this with?
So when this one's done, I think I'll have like almost, I don't know, 25 or 30 apartments.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well,
so I did one on Elm. That's a 4-family.
Yeah.
That was the one I learned on. Then I did one on Main Street. That's a 3-family. I gutted the whole thing. That was my first complete gut rehab.
Yeah.
Then I did one across the street from that on the corner of Main and Liberty, essentially. I had 6 apartments there. Then we did the one that you just followed on Walnut. That's 3 apartments. And then,
which the most satisfying part of that was watching the fire escape going up.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
like I didn't know you guys could weld.
I came in on a crane.
Dude, it looked pretty sweet.
Yeah, that wasn't cheap.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole idea with that is, a lot of times we're changing the floor plan of this building entirely. It used to be a single-family home, and at the time, a central staircase made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But when we're going to turn it into 3 apartments, that central staircase is in the middle of all the apartments.
Yes.
So we tore all the staircase out, patched the full holes where the staircase was, and then we brought a crane in on the back of the building. And the crane, it wasn't, or the metal staircase wasn't cheap, but when you're going to own these buildings for years and years and decades,
yeah,
it made all the sense in the world to have it done, made out of metal, custom made, and so that for the rest of the time I own this building, or Stu, my partner, and I, we won't worry about the staircase one time. It's solid as heck.
That's sensational.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those relationships last between projects. It's like we find out a way that we like to do this that feels like a long-term solution to a problem that we typically are going to run up against, where, like you said, we're going to change the entire floor plan.
Yep.
We're going to be putting in stairs a lot of times.
Yeah, and look, to you, when you watch these videos, you're probably like so overwhelmed, but like, the only difference between me and you is like I've done it. Like it's not rocket science, man.
Yeah.
Like we have a staircase, we have enough people around, and we just start cutting it.
Yeah.
There is a lot that goes into it, but I'm the kind of person, and some of what we can talk about today is like I'm a firm believer that like people that do well in life and people that don't are people that like are just okay. How I got into buildings. Okay, I used to go through buildings with I wanted to buy buildings in Over the Rhine, and at the time I knew nothing about it. So I went through a couple of buildings. I was probably 22, and I called a general contractor, and I went through with my dad, and I walked the general contractor through, and the whole idea was, hey, I'm going to buy a building, hire this guy to build my building, right? And I just started looking at this guy, and I was like, why can this guy do this, but I can't?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I literally just started doing it. I met a couple contractors, met a couple carpenters, and I started small. We did some kitchens, some bathrooms, just started watching and learning. And then I kind of like, I bought another building. I actually bought it in a Facebook message. It's funny.
Strangest Facebook marketplace deal that
Michael
happened.
Taggart, he messaged me, I'll never forget. He's a realtor, and he's like, hey, I got this building on Main Street. It's quality for sale. And I literally like said, yeah, I'll do it. And then it was quick. It was like a couple weeks later I bought it.
Well, last time you were on, you kind of talked about that there's doers and then there's peoples that feel intimidated by taking that step of learning a skill, failing at the skill until you do it right, and then growing on that skill. And I think what's most impressive about what you do is not only the acquisition of the skills that you're going to be doing in every single one of these buildings, but the proper delegation of those things. Like when I watched you pull this most recent building apart, there's 15 people running around this place. It looks like one person's collecting bricks, someone's pulling plaster off a wall. So not only having the know-how to do a job yourself, but having the know-how to facilitate a team and the efficient turnover of those things.
And I don't know why I know what every person should be doing. And the way I tell people to do what they do, that's not the only way, right? Like this guy that's carrying bricks, he could also be doing something else.
Totally.
But it's just when I'm in there, I can kind of tell what needs done. And, a lot of my job at certain times is babysitting. Some of these people come and they want to just hang out, and so I got to make sure that they've got a job, and then I understand in my head too, hey, the job I just gave that guy, I know how long that should take.
Yeah.
And so and it's weird, but like I used to serve right out of college. I had no idea what I was doing in my life, and I picked up a skill like serving, man. When you got all these tables and the food's coming out and this person needs a drink, like I got really good at multitasking and having different boxes in my head open. And so That's part of it too, is like, I feel like people, the different jobs you do over life, you should like be collecting skills, right?
Yeah. Well, people also respect when the person delegating them a task can also do that task,
Sure.
but they don't micromanage you.
Sure.
You know, people are so annoyed by having that looming voice over their shoulder. But when you come in confident, you say, okay, instead of doing this, I need you to do this, and I need you to be done with it in an hour. To not end up being the bad guy in that situation takes a really high level of personability that you clearly have. I mean, how big was the team just for the demo on Moorline?
We probably had 20 people there. And it's kind of crazy. So I have a guy named Jeff. He's awesome. His nickname is Mud. I'd say he's real life Joe Dirt.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, he's like if Joe Dirt had a bobcat and a bunch of hillbilly buddies. He's awesome, man. So Mud's number one problem, and it's the same problem a lot of people have in construction, is he is awesome, but his guys are not. And so I could kind of tell in Jeff's voice that like he was worried about his help showing up day after day after day. And so I made a phone call to a guy named Elder, who is a Honduran roofer that I know. And I was just like, hey, we need some help demoing. He literally was like, we'll be there in the morning. And he showed up with like probably 12 guys.
Man.
And so we had Jeff's crew ended up coming. And at this point, we weren't really, they were just a bonus, right?
Yeah.
And then Elder's team showed up with, I mean, it was nuts. And we just hammered this thing. This building's 8,000 square feet. There is, I mean, I had to send you a video of what we tore out of this thing. It was, I think, almost 9 30-yard dumpsters, which is, and one 30-yard dumpster is like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, how many metric tons of crap do you think you pulled out?
Tens of thousands, like, I mean, it could be 100,000 pounds worth of stuff, literally.
And, there's something, immigration status doesn't tell you everything about someone, but you know that folks that have come here for the opportunities that they're facing are 10 times hungrier than anyone else that was born with those rights.
We could literally spend the entire podcast talking about this conversation.
Yeah.
I grew up in in Anderson. I didn't know anybody that was illegal, right? I didn't know anybody that had come here, and I would regurgitate what I was told by my father or the fathers of my friends. Hey, there's, build the wall and this and that. And I understand that, countries do potentially need borders and why we need them to make sure people that don't want to harm this country are not coming in. But I have met some of the most beautiful people that are not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Kind of a long story, but I mean, I don't know if this is like illegal to talk about, but one of my guys got arrested, and they called me, and they said, "Hey, Martine." I don't know if I should include his name or not. He's in immigration.
Yeah, first names are okay, but yeah we'll keep it vague.
He said he's in immigration. We need somebody that doesn't have a criminal record and somebody that's a U.S. citizen to get him out. And so I drove to Columbus, and this is crazy. I don't know if it's this way anymore. This is when Obama was probably president. And there is a immigration facility in Columbus, Ohio. And underneath it, I swear to you, are like 5 banks, literally. Okay, and here's the thing. When you get arrested, you say you get a DUI, okay? Say your bond is, say it's $6,000. You have to pay a percentage of that, from what I understand. So it's 10% of 6,000 or whatever.
On the spot.
Correct. In order to get out or whatever. When somebody that's illegal gets arrested, they have to pay 100%. Okay. But the crazy thing is, right, is they had Martine in custody. Okay. He was like drunk in public or something. He didn't do anything bad. If he did something bad, I wouldn't have gone and done it. So what they did is they basically say, hey, if you want him, just come and give us cash. So I didn't pay for it. Martine's boss went with me, and they gave me cash. Then I walked into the facility, and I, as a legal resident without a criminal record, I gave them the cash. They then called down to Hamilton County where he was and said, hey, you can release him. The crazy thing is, man, is like he obviously wasn't going to go to his court date. So they let him out, and they say, hey, where are you going to stay? Here's when your court date is. He's not going to go because he knows he's going to get deported, right? And so they used to send me stuff in the mail all the time, which is hilarious. They said, hey, you're going to like forfeit your, I think we gave him like $7,000.
Oh, you're going to forfeit your right to earn the bond back.
Correct. But here's the thing. It wasn't my money. Okay.
Yeah.
But the other thing is is bullshit, man. Like you had him, okay, and then like if you really wanted him, and you really wanted him out of here, you would have just held on to him and not allowed me to give you $7,000 to get him back out.
Yeah, what they wanted was the $7,000.
They wanted the money. It's bullshit, man. You know,
and the fact that they have banks underneath shows you that there's an emotional ploy being pulled on these people that, you know, and most of the folks that are going to show up aren't someone that they work with. This is a family member that has fought like hell for whatever got that person into this country. And I agree that there needs to be process to protect the rights of American citizens and give people the opportunity to earn those rights and to use them to the fullest. But at the same time, like you said, it has no accountability to the type of people that are being brought in here. It's like everyone gets put in the category of illegal, and that makes you look like a criminal, when you might have some of the most intelligible, kind, hardworking folks sitting in a cell waiting for someone to come put 15 grand down or $7,000 down.
Well, I kind of had a panic attack thinking about it. Like, I'm imagining if I was in Guatemala, this guy's Guatemalan, you know, and I'm like, man, if I was in a jail cell in Guatemala, right, and I had nobody, I'm stuck here. I don't speak this language. And so I'd like try to put myself in this guy's shoes, and I'm like, dude, the least I can do is spend a day of my life going to Columbus to get this guy out. And when I call that guy now, I could call him right now. He will answer.
Yes.
And if I need him to paint something or to carry drywall, like he's a great guy, but like it was the smartest thing I ever did with a day, because there's like a whole team of Guatemalans that they like kind of like, oh, Mike was the guy that drove to Columbus and got Martine out.
You were in loyalty with people,
right?
In a way that, like you said, you try to put yourself in their shoes to be empathetic towards that moment, but you don't know what it means to someone until they come to show you what it means to them. And that means drop of a hat. What you need is what I'm going to do, and vice versa.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that some of the people that come in this country, you know, are people that don't mean... There's just some harmful people coming in. But like all these people that I'm working with, the people that I've met, I have carpenters that are white, that have mortgages and have kids in schools, and dude, these guys aren't worth a shit. They were just born here. Yeah. They were born here, and they have drinking problems, drug problems. They have multiple DUIs. They've been divorced multiple times. They're goofballs. Yeah. But because they were born here, they can do whatever the hell they want.
They have a right to be a goofball in that. But when it comes to the strength of our workforce, why would you not want Martine or someone that has the gusto and the care to actually get jobs done over and over again, and maybe send money back home, which does good for our economy too in some ways.
Tomorrow morning, I just met with a carpenter before I came here, and I've got a guy that I pay $50 an hour, and he's supposed to be there at the morning, but like I'd flip a coin. Like there's a very good chance this guy will not be there to make $50 an hour. Yeah. Very good. These Hondurans that we just had working on this building, I would bet anything, okay, that every single one of them, all 12 of them will be there an hour before we are, and they'll stay an hour later. It's insane, dude. Like, it's totally nuts. And if you haven't been around it, and if you haven't needed the kind of work that I need done, and like had a workforce kind of assemble on a property like that and had them just kind of do it, it's the most relieving. I can understand why landscaping companies and construction companies, I can understand why they allow illegal workers to kind of infiltrate their businesses, because when you have huge jobs and you have huge tasks and you have all this landscaping that needs done, like, you just need help. Yeah. Okay.
You need reliable help.
Help.
The question of if a guy's going to show up, what that does to your mental health
as a
business owner.
I'll let you know if this guy shows up tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I'll let you
shoot me a text.
I'm doubting it. Like, we had a serious talk about it. I let him know, hey, here's what we're paying, which is, I mean, you're talking $50 an hour that's $2,000 every 5 days. $2,000 every 5 days, and like, you just have to come to work, and it's a lot of money, you know. And
if you go with your hands, if that kind of work rewards you, if that's why you've ended up in that field, why would you ever bat an eye of, should I go in today? It's like, where the fuck else could you be?
And that's the thing, is like, if he's not there, like, I have no clue what he's doing. He's doing something ridiculous, you know. But so I don't know. I guess I could talk about it for hours, but it's like, since I've been doing this 10 years, and like, I have learned something. There is if I was running, like, restaurants struggle with this. Restaurants struggle with probably like goofy workforce people constantly coming and don't come into work. And then I can only imagine like how frustrating it is running a business. Like your business is only as good as your help.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
it's like a team. It's like it's the weakest player that decides how good the team's going to be, because you got to use everybody. If they're on the team, it's for a reason. No one sits on the bench that isn't needed.
some of these guys walked through the desert for like a week, dude. I'm not kidding. Like
What a different testament.
literally for a week at the chance of coming to the United States to clean dishes in some cases,
Yeah.
you know, and it's insane. But I don't think we realize like it is so good in America. It is so good. Granted, there's different levels of you know, affluence, right? There's some people that have everything and some people that have nothing. But having nothing in the United States compared to having nothing in Honduras, I think there are different levels of having nothing.
Yeah. Well, and the opportunities that are in front of you and achievable, it's like there's something in the workforce about when someone puts student athlete on their resume, it looks better. And we give preferential treatment to that. When someone puts that they're a veteran, hopefully, in most cases, they get preferential treatment. When someone has immigrated, you know, they should be given preferential treatment for the opportunities that they've worked so hard to get, because it's such a testimony to their person. And the fact that when you start to go through that process, they don't call the business owner and say, what's this person meant to your business?
Sure.
You know, that there's no consideration of the good they've already done before they earn that.
The way the government looks at it is they say, hey, do we need this person? Like, we have white drywallers already. We have white demo guys, i.e. Mud's team, Jeff, my other demo guy. That's why it's so hard. Like, these people that are, you know, we're just working with, they don't even try to get legal status typically because they won't get it. Mm-hmm. If you are a scientist, or if you, you know, if you're a Mexican neurologist, or if it's a skill that we need or that we don't have, that's how you have a chance at getting legal residence.
And that's with degree association. Like most folks, when they immigrate to the States, their degree goes out the window because there's no translation of that. And it's like, how the fuck are you going to let a doctor now start working in some kind of, you know, urgent care when he could be taking care of a top tier floor somewhere? It's just there might be a language barrier for the first couple years.
And the thing is we were paying Jeff's team, white guys, and Elder's team, Hondurans, the same amount. It's not, we're not hiring Elder's team to save money. Mm-hmm. We're hiring Elder's team because they come to work. Yeah. You know, and so these Hondurans, they're making, I don't know, $25 an hour. To them, that's a huge job. I mean, they'll make in 1 week what they'd probably make in multiple months in Honduras, right? And so, but I don't know, I guess I'm trying to kind of get that out of the way. Is like, some people think sometimes that people are like taking advantage, or that they're only hiring illegal labor because it's cheap. But in fact, that's not really at all what we're doing. We're hiring illegal labor because it's reliable.
Yeah, it's quality.
It's quality.
And there should be, one thing I've come to the realization the last year of is capitalism means that we get to participate in the free market. The market is much less free to individuals as much as it is free to businesses. And businesses should have the freedom to bring in folks of whatever opportunity and status to make the thing move forward. And again, I think people should be affirmed and accredited for the work they do as steps towards their citizenship. Because if someone was born in this country and they didn't make the most of their freedoms, it's not like we should deport them for that. They're allowed to stay around and figure their shit out. Sure. But if someone else came here to take your job, they should take your job, because that's the free market, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I've got a white guy that's a really good carpenter making $50 an hour. And when this guy comes to work and when he does what he should be doing, he's worth $50 an hour. I mean, I have no problem paying him that, if not more. But it's just this unreliability that it's just, it's unbelievable that somebody could have so little, i.e. these Hondurans. A lot of them live in Price Hill. A lot of them live together. They share cars. And they are like so reliable. When you get a white guy that has a home in Anderson Township, that has kids that go to, you know, to Anderson Township public schools, and he's got a wife, and you know, how in the heck can this guy be so unreliable when he has all this responsibility? And then you have these people that don't even speak the language, right? They're not supposed to be here, have very little, and they are like the complete polar opposite in terms of like reliability. It's insane. I mean, we're fully insured and we're doing everything right. But like, there was one guy, he stepped on a nail, and this just kind of shows you, it's also, there is a softness to certain, this guy stepped on a nail, and I walked outside, and he had a shoe off. I'll send you a picture of it. He had a shoe off, and
a hole in his foot. Don't
he
send me
literally had a hole that was leaking blood out of his foot, and Elder was pouring gasoline on his foot. This is a true story. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this guy, and he's like not freaking out. He's taking and he's slapping gasoline on his foot, and like I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, if this was like a wimpy white dude right now, like the whole fire department would be here.
Yeah. Why gasoline?
I think it stops the bleeding, or I think what they think is it's like a poor man's anesthetic. I think it's supposed to kill germs.
No, that's Kamchatka vodka, bro. You guys start keeping it on site, you know.
Yeah. So Stu and I went. We got him all these these gauze wraps, and we ended up taking care of the guy. But like this dude was pouring gas on his foot, and then like just wanted to put his boot back on and get back to work. It's insane, dude. It's insane. And I'm telling you, if that was one of my white dudes, he would be on workers' comp for 6 months.
Yeah.
He just would.
Yeah.
And there is just a personality type that comes with when you want to come to this country, when you want to walk through the desert for a week at the chance of working some hard job. There is a level of mental toughness and hunger that like it's hard to explain unless you've been around it.
Yeah. When there's a language barrier between you and your employer, a pat on the back might go a little further because someone can't adequately express to you that you're appreciated. But when the money hits the hand, people know they're appreciated. When they get the call again, they feel that appreciation. And that's what drives someone to want to stay in this country. Most of these folks don't come here, make the money, send it home, and go back. Yeah. They come here because this is the lifestyle that they want to live. And it's like, if you don't reward that, then how is this the country of opportunity?
Well, part of it is they don't even have opportunity where they live, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's, I don't think they thought they were going to be demoing my building when they came to the United States, but they said, hey, we're living somewhere in Central America that like, even if I want to work, like there's just nothing for me to do, you know? And, that's pretty complex issue. But, I mean, look, I'm still, I'm conservative about some things, but immigration is not one of them because I have been fully immersed into seeing the people that some people are trying to get out of this country. If they knew the level of worker, the level of discipline, the level of commitment, the level of, it's like, it should be like a contest. Like my goofball carpenter that won't come to work, he should lose. He should get kicked out. You know what I'm saying? Like obviously it doesn't work that way, and it never will. But like, if this is supposed to be the A team, right? If we want our country to be the A team, how do we make it the A team? It's like, have the cream rise to the top, right? And have the goofballs, rise to the bottom, and I don't know. It's super complex, but
it definitely is. But I think when people proudly take the stance of, I employ the most kick-ass people I can find, and on that merit alone, look who showed up. Look who made it to the top. Allowing that to speak its own truth and providing those opportunities is a beautiful thing.
Sure. I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but from what you've seen, Mike Rowe, are you familiar with that guy? He's the Dirty Jobs guy, real manly guy. He's a voice. He was at one time like the voice of Ford.
What a great life.
Yeah, he part of what he did with Dirty Jobs, which I think has been on TV for decades at this point. He would go around the country and he would, shadow all these quote unquote dirty jobs, right? While your dad's a stockbroker, Mike Rowe would go and he would shadow some guy that cleans septic tanks or just
artificially inseminates cows. I watched that episode. It changed my life. I've never seen a guy go past the elbow in a cow. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So the whole idea behind that show was just to show you that like these jobs exist, right? Because there's some of these jobs he was shadowing, like you didn't even realize like that was a job. But part of what he would notice over the years was that there's what's called a skills gap in this country. And so right now, I don't theoretically say there's 3 million people that are unemployed. There is actually more than 3 million jobs that are open, but these 3 million people don't know how to do those jobs. Okay. So, like there's a crane right now in Iowa that needs driven that pays $100,000 the first day. But these people that aren't working don't know how to drive the crane, and it's, I could go on and on and on about this, but it's like part of the reason I think that is because we have guidance counselors in high schools telling kids like me that I had to go to Mount St. Joe and play lacrosse and study communications. And that's what I did. And I don't really regret it, but it's like, meanwhile, I got somebody that technically has a bad job telling me what to do with my life.
Yeah.
Right? Telling me
They don't seem like the happiest cats.
yeah,
in
well,
those
it's just it's not lucrative, right? They're probably not making great money, and not that that's everything, that they're helping people, and that's fine. But it's like, okay, I don't have kids. I've thought about this a lot. I hope to have kids one day. All kids work bullshit jobs. They just do, right? That's part of growing up.
Yeah, they should.
You worked at the swim club or whatever the fuck you did. You worked some bullshit job. I used to work at Cincinnati Sports Mall. I was a bad job. I would like coach lacrosse camps or. Part of growing up is I used to make $5.25. I remember it was either $5.15 or $5.25, but it's just a job as a kid. I want to make sure that when my kids have jobs growing up, I've thought about this. If I had a son, okay, and say he was 14 years old, and so he's going to work his freshman, sophomore, junior, senior years in the summer, I would have him pick a different trade each year. So like freshman year, he'll work for an electrician. He's not like probably twisting wire, but like he'll be there, he'll be carrying stuff, he'll be watching. The next year, like if you liked it, stick with that electrician. If he wants you to come back, that's fine. But the next year, go work for an HVAC company, okay? And watch them run duct work and watch put line sets together, or run communication wires for mini splits, or and if you like that, keep doing that. The third year, go work for a plumber, dude. And then by the time they get through high school, they will either probably made more money than their buddies, because my guess is that an electrician's probably going to pay more than this swim club.
Yeah, even for the grunt labor, for you just to be the assistant.
100%, and so it's you probably made more than your buddies, and then B, you're getting like legitimate life experience. When I was folding towels at the sports mall, dude, there's 0 life skills I learned. I mean, I learned how to fold a towel, right? But like.
Yeah. But you stayed in a comfortable bubble that I think a lot of parents perceive that as, okay, because my kid's working in the neighborhood, I don't need to worry about what they're doing when they're at work.
I had a job because my parents told me I had to get a job. My job had no purpose other than to make $186 a week. Like, it was such little money. I made such bullshit money. But like, I want to make sure that like when I have kids growing up, hopefully one day, that like the job they work, there's a freaking reason, right? Like they're not just going to work to make money, which they are, but like I want my son to like watch an electrician work, watch a plumber work, watch an HVAC tech work, watch a welder work, so that by the time those 4 years of working are done, he's thought either A, I'm interested in these, or B, I'm not, but like one day when I own a home, I will know a little bit about like how the world works, right? Mm-hmm. Folding these towels, like it did nothing for me in my professional life. It did. So and
it didn't inspire you to find your profession. I think so many kids are assumed to be taken care of by their guidance counselor. Dude. That parents say, hands off. I just want them to go to college like the rest of their peers. Like there was a set standard process that people were more comfortable with than saying, my kid needs to find their fucking place in the world.
Yeah.
Like as a kid that I chose a blue collar occupation. I like to assume it's blue collar. My only job's only been music. And the reason I say it's in that category is because I don't make money when I'm not there. I make money when I'm gigging.
Totally.
And by the time I started, my dad would say, if I had Friday night off, why have a Friday night off?
Sure.
Why aren't you working? And you're not meant to turn your kids into workaholics, but you are meant to encourage them to find their place in the world as soon as possible, because a life runs by real quick.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's exactly right. I was sitting here kind of spaced out for a second, but I was sitting here thinking, the United States education system, when I walked into the guidance counselor, so actually my high school had me come back and speak to some kids, because like, I didn't know about it. I didn't know that you could start a business, right? I thought that in order to start a business when you're a kid, you had to somebody had to nominate you, and there was some license you had to get, and you're like, that's not at all how it works. Like,
you take a capability test and it says CEO, and you're like, well, fuck, I guess that's it.
I think we talked about it last time, but I sold liquor, dude.
Dude, yes.
I had a whole completely illegal business.
Please go look up his Ponzi scheme of liquor sales. Dude, funny.
I was entrepreneurial DNA. Like if young, I've heard. I can't remember that guy's name. I think he's Russian. Anyway, long story
Yeah,
short.
don't give his name away. He's selling liquor to kids. Sweet Jesus.
There are certain kids, right? If you had an 11-year-old, right, and he wants to start cutting the neighbor's yard for $18, or shoveling driveways, or you will acknowledge, you can recognize in growing children who might have the wherewithal or the interest to like run a business. Some people, they want to go into a job and have it put on their table. Please do these 8 things for me today, and then you can go home. Some people love that, okay? Some people, like me, want to come into a facility or come into an office or, come into a building and, like, create everything. Tell people what they need to do, what you need done. I don't know, I guess what I'm getting at is the United States education system, they pretty much teach kids these days, hey, come to school, study, learn stuff, take these tests so you get good grades so somebody will hire you. That's literally what they teach you in school.
Yeah. And then you'll climb the corporate ladder like you climb your school ladder.
You hope, right? You hope. Some people end up working for family businesses where, like, no matter what they do, they can't promote, right? Mm-hmm. If this guy started it and his son works there, sorry, but you're not going to ever have a higher job than his son. You're just not, But I just wish schools did a better job at teaching people, like, hey, I didn't even know you could make money making wedding films when you were a kid. I had no idea, right? I made a video as a hobby, and then somebody messaged me and was like, hey, would you want to film my wedding? And I was like, hey, I like making videos. Somebody like wants me to film a wedding. How much do they how much could I charge? I started looking online, and then I was like, man, this could be a business.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what a great testament to most entrepreneurs don't have just one job. I've always believed that you need 3 hobbies, and hobbies and jobs are kind of interchangeable words in my mind. You need a hobby that keeps you healthy, a hobby that makes you money, and a hobby that keeps you creative. In between those things, you can monetize all 3 of those if you want. You can be a personal trainer and just go running with somebody that needs the companionship, but that's not the point. It's like you need to be so actively engaged in your own life. And people assume that their job is going to be the one-stop shop to happiness. And that's why you have so many people working dead-end jobs wondering when the fuck's life going to spice up a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, I mean, but my life can be overwhelming at times. Like this morning, I ran 6 miles. It's super hot out.
Deathly hot.
I use exercise as like literally my medicine, man. Like if I have a crazy week and I've got 20 guys working at the building and all this stuff and, loan payments and, tax abatement stuff. And, we got Artworks wants to do a mural on our last building, and they can't work within 10 feet of the power line. So they want us to turn the power off, but we're like, hey, we're running an Airbnb. So we can't just turn the power off. And it's just everything in my life takes a lot of work,
Yeah. Well, and not to mention you're insatiably curious, that's part of you as a person. It's like, I don't want to say no to this mural because it sounds like fun. You didn't say no to coming on the podcast because it sounds like fun. Yeah. How many hours you have in a day? That's a set amount of things. How many things would you like to do in a day? It's like, sky's the limit.
Yeah, no. So, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm the kind of person, man, I looked at this general contractor when I was 22 years old, and I was like, man, why can this guy do this, but I can't? Now my phone's filled with people, but he just had plumbers in his phone. He had electricians. He just had a little bit of experience in the right contacts, right? Mm-hmm. And he was charging me a fee for that. And I was like, man, granted, my best buddy, he's a general surgeon. Okay, I can't do his job. Yeah. I can't. I didn't go to school for it.
No, you can.
I could. If I would have chosen to go to school for that and spent all the time that he did, maybe I could have done his job. I don't know. He's brilliant, but there are a lot of people in this world that don't realize that the only difference between you and somebody that's doing something you want to do at a really high level is just doing it.
Yeah. Hours spent in the field. It's like Michael Jordan didn't turn that way overnight. And he didn't turn that way immediately. He got cut from the team. He suffered and went back. And it's like that story alone should be enough to wake up a lot of people. Yeah. But it's also interesting that we're looking at the world of AI stepping in. And the first thing that's getting automated is not the truckers, and it's not the general contractors, and it's not the nurses. It's the people who are just mental capacity folks that we always saw as the highest form of employment, the highest paid versions of employment. It's like the person who advises you on your business management is going to get replaced by ChatGPT. You know, the person that's telling you how.
Good luck replacing a plumber with
exactly.
with AI. You know,
your lawyer's going to get replaced by ChatGPT. You know, your medical diagnosis based on the raw data.
The jobs that my guidance counselor was telling me to go do.
Exactly.
Right? But the jobs that they didn't want me to go do. You think of a plumber, you think of some fat guy with his butt crack hanging out. Dude, I am about to pay a plumber more than $50,000 to plumb this. Like they're making real money.
And those are the folks that they do that job during the summer. They bust their ass.
Didn't go to college, right? No college debt. A lot of these people are paying. And you saw in dirty jobs, I brought that up. A lot of these people in dirty jobs came out of high school, started doing something. They're paying cash, literally paying cash for houses. Like part of what Mike Groh was talking, he's testified in front of Congress a bunch of times because Congress wants him to come and tell them about the skills gap. Tell them about how much bullshit it is what these guidance counselors are trying to get kids to go study. We don't freaking need more lawyers, man. My dad he doesn't work anymore, but before he retired, he would interview lawyers for his secretarial job, paying not good money, right? There's just so many lawyers out there that like we don't have enough jobs for them, right?
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you go to Nick High School and the guidance counselor is telling these kids, hey, go study law at UC. Go do it. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. You know, meanwhile, if you would tell that kid to go home and weld or go do this or go work for my wealthiest family member on both sides by tens of millions of dollars, he buys and sells heating and air companies. It's not even close. Yeah. If you take everybody else in my family and add up their wealth, we're probably still short by a lot.
Yeah.
My uncle that buys and sells heating and air companies is filthy rich. Filthy rich. And if you would go to a guy at high school right now and say, hey, what do you think about heating and air? Like, they'd probably be like, no. You know, this is too affluent of an area for you to go into heating and air. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, go to St. X, right? You know, I went there for 2 years, right? And go to a St. X guidance counselor and say, hey, what do you think about me going into heating and air? And they're going to look at you and say, hey, like here we send kids to Stanford and, you know, we got kids like my best buddy, he's a general surgeon. My other buddy, he's an orthopedic surgeon. And a lot of kids from X do really, really well. And that's why people want to send their kids there, similar to Mueller, right? Yeah. But like these, I don't know, I guess if I hope for anything of the education system, like I want them to like realize what the good jobs really are, right? Mm-hmm. You know?
And there's things outside of your job that can make you happy too. It's like you don't need to be doing exactly what you thought would be the most fun thing every day. Like I'm grateful that I ended up on the artist side of things, and I have a great time doing it. But in every entrepreneurial class I ever took, they said, don't make the service and find a customer. Find the customer and develop the service.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so when you look around at the world that you're in, you need to address unaddressed issues.
So find the customer first, then develop the service.
Yes.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and as you look around, it's like, what are the big issues right now? Housing's a big issue.
It is.
So if you want to get into the world of housing,
that's what I do.
Find places that people recurringly need the kind of homes that you want to provide. If you want to run luxury Airbnbs, you can't do that in the poorest part of the neighborhood.
Totally.
You know, but if you want to provide livable housing for these folks, that's an extremely fulfilling career path.
Yeah. Actually, one of my best buddies, I don't know if I'll see this or not, but he's an attorney and went to school for a long time. He's a really, really smart guy. I was just over at his house on the 4th of July, and he told me he wants to quit his job and he wants to build decks. I swear to you. He's like, hey, I'm going to get a truck. And, you know, my wife and I have been talking. She's an attorney as well. I swear to God. And he's like, dude, we fucking hate our jobs. And he wants to build, he built a deck on his house and did like a little concrete pad. And I came over and checked it out. I was like, dude, it looks really good. You know, because he knows it's kind of what I do. And I think he experienced like a very primal, what I experienced too, right? Where he was like, he built one deck and he was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, I'm going to build decks. Fuck being an attorney.
Yeah.
And like, I hope he does it, you know? Granted, he's got bills and he's got kids and, you know, they'll have to figure out the finances to starting a business. But dude, if you want to do concrete, if you want to build decks, at the beginning, it might be tough, but like once you get it going, you can make more money than being an attorney. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I guarantee it if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, because the need's there. And as we talked about, it's like certain career paths are changing faster than we give it credit for. And because that's the world of technology. It moves exponentially at rates that we can't really process because we're we're not quantum computing devices. You know, we're kind of linear in the way that we think about the problems of our own lives.
Well, I think a part of it is too is construction is a field that ask anybody you know has a construction nightmare story, right? Hey, I renovated a bathroom and the contractor disappeared for a month, and so people are willing to pay top dollar for reliable construction services.
Yeah,
they just are, right? And so. I guess what I was getting at is just like, it's fascinating though. If I would have told this guy when he was going to law school, if I would have said, hey dude, A, in 10 years, you're going to want to build decks, but then B, like, what if I told you that if you knew what you're doing and I could help you, like, what if I told you that you could make more money building decks than being an attorney? What, like, you know, it would take a little bit to get the business there.
Yeah.
But I guarantee that if you had multiple teams, you know, they're building multiple decks at one time. And then, dude, I poured a concrete patio for my buddy. One of my best friends, he actually lives near Kenwood Mall, and he wanted a hot tub. And,
Good for him.
So he called me. I'm the buddy people call when they want shit done.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all these odd jobs where you're like, I haven't done it, but I'll do it, you know, and they don't need to know that.
He's one of my really good friends. I wouldn't have done it for, you know, just somebody I barely knew. So he and I go way back, and I show up with my team, dude. I'll send you a picture of that too. We dug out this whole guy's backyard, poured him a concrete patio, and then he like let me know, like, dude. I don't think I charged him. He bought me dinner one night. He paid all my guys, but like, he told me, he's like, hey, like I got some numbers from concrete companies, and I was like, I already know what they are. Like, literally something that took us, I don't know, maybe it took us 8 hours total, $7,000 for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like he paid for the concrete. He paid for we had a little Georgia buggy, which is how you transport it. If the concrete truck can't get all the way to where we're pouring, you rent this little buggy that has like a giant dump barrel on it.
Does it still have to rotate it to keep it soft?
Nope. So concrete, we actually just did concrete the other day. Concrete, it can sit on a truck for quite a while. Concrete can be on a truck for 2-3 hours sometime and be fine. But you know, when you order concrete, you have to tell them what slump you want it, right? So there's like
slump.
Yeah. So if I call concrete right now, I say, hey, first of all, they say, what do you want? You can add fiber mesh to it, which is like, if you kind of tear it apart, it's got like little hairs in it.
Interesting. And that's for binding.
Correct. It's like it's
like the breadcrumbs.
Correct. And so I think he did a fiber mesh, and then we ordered it like a 3 or 4 slump, but based upon what slump it comes, you can do different stuff with it. That's the viscosity of the concrete, right? So imagine this. Say you're going to pour a driveway, and the driveway, it's sloped a little bit, right? If you take like super watery concrete and try to like form it on that slope, it's not going to work, right? It's just going to fall.
Pool.
It's just going to fall, right? You know, and so also like curb machines. If you're like you're looking at a road, right, and then on the side of the road is a curb, they actually make those curbs with like an actual curb machine where like the concrete goes into this big machine and it like somehow chops it up and forms it and then spits it out like as a curb.
Yeah. In
order to spit out a curb that's like formed, that is a very thick concrete. Do you know what I'm saying?
So is it a higher slump or a lower slump?
I think I can't remember. I think we normally are like a 3 or a 4, but I think the lower the number, the thicker. I could be wrong.
Isn't it interesting though? Like what I really love about what you're saying there, and I thought about this the other day. We focus so much on what our finances allow us to do, when really the best thing about the place that we live is the opportunity to bargain between individuals of high skill set. You don't need to employ someone to do something. You can trade people things for services and goods in your life, but you need to know and appreciate those individuals for what they do. Like there's a reason that your friends call you, because I prefer to call a friend rather than a random company, because I'm not trying to get gouged or falsely pretense what this is going to take to get done.
When I was doing this concrete patio for this guy, he also had a tree trimming company. He had a tree that was kind of hanging over where the hot tub was going to be. And I think he told me he paid this guy, it was like $600 to trim this tree, to cut this tree down. And he was there for 3 hours, you know? And so what I'm getting is like, we would have made, I didn't charge, he was my buddy, but like, we would have charged this guy $6-7 grand for sure. Then he's paying this tree guy $600 for a couple hours. Like, there's money out there in things that people don't know. Like if you have a tree trimming company and you know what you're doing and you're a good businessman or woman and you've got the right people working from you, I guarantee you can be a millionaire trimming trees. I guarantee it.
Totally. And I think that depends on the service entailed isn't just the service. It's the personability.
The reliability, the showing up, the communicating. The number one skill that I have, even when I don't speak the same language. So I studied communication in college, and we had classes that like there's different kinds of communication, right? Like even when I don't speak the same language as I speak a little bit of Spanish, but when this Honduran is outside and he's got his foot is bleeding, or when there is communication that I can exert to somebody that I speak a different language. The one skill that I have above any other skill is I have really good people skills. I have really good communication skills. I can have people that I don't speak the same language as. And for some reason, when I'm around them and when I'm around them and we're communicating, even though it's in broken, varying languages, they pick up what I'm trying to say. They pick up the fact that I care, that I'm smart, that I know what's going on, the fact that I know what they're doing as much as they know what they're doing. But like, man, this is off topic, but I filmed a wedding not long ago for two people that went to, the bride and groom went to a very exclusive college, very exclusive. And I was texting my brother that day and I'm like, man, not only this couple, but all of their friends here that also went to that college are all just nerds. Swear to God. And like,
which is okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit in a dark room and read, and read MRIs or, be a radiologist or do something that like, or just, you're a day trader and you're looking at numbers, or if you're going to do a job like that, awesome. But I text my brother, I'm like, man, put me in a company with these people that both went to this school. And I guarantee I take this company over before they do. I guarantee it. Because they have no ability to communicate. They have no ability to manage people, no ability to do anything other than be incredibly intelligent. And look, I'm impressed. Every test those people ever took, they've never gotten a B in their life. They've never, literally, I guarantee every person there got a perfect score. This school is really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Every person in the bridal party, they all got perfect scores. All of them. That's impressive. It is. But what is impressive is if you go to that school and you play a sport and you're a normal person, that's what impresses me. Not the fact that you play a sport, but like people that come out of Harvard or wherever and are, my best buddy, dude, he's a general surgeon, could have gone to Harvard for medical school. The only reason why he didn't is because he couple matched with his wife. He from what I understand, he had the ability to really go to any medical school he wanted to go to. He's a totally normal guy. I went to hang out with him the other night and he's like, hey, he lives in Loveland. He said, hey, meet me at this gas station. Swear to God. I walk in, dude. He's hanging out at this gas station in Loveland in his scrubs. He had just operated all day. And he's got this little gas station by his house in Loveland where he goes and just sits at this little bar and watches sports and just hangs out with Loveland like locals.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
in his fucking scrubs.
In his scrubs. And people are like, hey, like, why are you dressed like that? And he's like, I'm a surgeon. But what I'm getting at, like, he's impressive to me. Like when you are brilliant and you have a very, very high-paying job that not a lot of people can do. He has an extreme skill, right, that he had developed and spent years and years in school. That, and he can be in a car with 8 hours with somebody he has never met and not get weird.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like there are different skills in this world besides being smart.
Totally. Dude, what a great class it would be, talk to a stranger. You know what I mean? Just the requirement of sitting down. And not that you need to get something from that stranger, that you just need to enjoy being a person
I
with
can
them.
talk to strangers that I don't even speak the same language as. Literally. Here's the thing. They don't we don't speak the same language, but when I'm there and they're there and they speak what they speak and I speak English, they know what I mean. Because I am good at communicating. Yeah. I went to school for it. I've been working on it my whole life. I was playing on sports teams, trying to, lead teams. And then the number one skill, like Madden, where you could build a football player, right?
Yeah.
You turn up the speed or the agility or whatever. Dude, if you turn the communication level, communication skills up on a human being way the fuck up, that is how I think, like, that is huge, man.
Yeah. Well, I think also crafting the skill of listening to people, one of the most common things across young people right now is that they don't feel heard. I think we all don't feel heard in a lot of parts of our lives, or you develop that skill to be a great communicator and you get heard. But there's some middle ground in there where we've just become less personable, and because of that, less empathetic. Like if you didn't have time where you talk to a gentleman that doesn't understand a lick of what you're actually saying, but can feel and converse with you in that way, you wouldn't have driven up to Columbus for the guy if you didn't feel like there was some camaraderie there.
It's my body language too, man. It's not even really what I'm saying. Like, if we don't speak the same language and I kind of take him over to this wall that has plaster that needs torn off, my body language, and he can tell how excited I am about it. Like, next thing I know, like, just my body movements and me pointing to something and me like tapping him on his back and letting him know I'm here for him. Like, next thing we know, this guy's doing a great job on this wall. Like, communicating, it comes in a lot of various forms. It's not just words.
Yeah. And I think there's fulfillment in providing opportunities for people that a lot of young kids don't get. They don't get that conveyed to them. Like, I can't express how good it feels for me, not to send out the 1099s at the end of the year, but to know that I put money in the pockets of people that I care about, that I think are great fucking workers and great people to have around my situation. There's something fulfilling about that. And some people create opportunities and some people take opportunities. But there kind of needs to be a one-to-one reciprocation of that.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's yeah. But just to spin it back around, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's not enough. I don't know. I think people think, I'll never forget when I got an email from a bank and they were like, "Hey, just so you know, we added you to our list of approved general contractors for the bank." And I was sitting there, I was thinking like literally, dude, I've never taken a test. I don't have a license. Like, I just started doing it, right? Like, I've got an LLC and it's insured and I have all the requirements that the bank asks for. But like, literally, First Financial Bank emailed me. They say, "Hey, just so you know, we added Squirrel Properties," which is my nickname, like Squirrel Properties, to our list of approved general contractors for the bank. And I'm like, I just made this up. Like, I literally just started doing it, yeah. Right? And it's like, I wish that people out there, I don't know, see this, but it's like, I wish my message to like kids is like, man, like, if you want to do something, like, you just do it.
Yeah.
You don't need, the guidance counselor at McNick or at St. X or at any school to tell you like, hey, go to this school and study real hard and learn all this stuff so that somebody will let you do it. Mm. Dude, to me, that's the worst thing you can do. Like, if you want to do it, if you want to be an employee and you are somebody that needs to be employed and you can't run your own business and you have an employee mindset, then absolutely go to school and get good grades so that somebody will hire you. Right. Yeah. But if you had a lawn care company when you were 11 years old and, you were like, charging your buddies money to sell them baseball cards and, you kind of had some entrepreneurial aspects to your personality, then like, just do something. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard at first, right? You're going to have to figure out how to buy the lawnmower and how to do this and how to find clients. But like, eventually your buddy that went to law school is going to look at you and say, "Hey, I wish I was building decks instead of being a freaking attorney," And it's like, I love him. He's one of my best buddies. And like, but I also think the type of law he does just kind of beats him up a little bit,
Totally. Well, I think any system that's heavily bureaucratic like that too, it's like one thing you were saying made me think of, it's better to ask forgiveness than it is permission. Like, the way that I got into a lot of my gigs was I had a half-hour material and I took an hour-long gig and I suffered, and I came back and I was like, okay, now I can do an hour-long gig. Well, time to go to 3 hours and suffer again.
But you made yourself uncomfortable, right?
Exactly. And then you decide the work that you want to be doing. And my dad just said this to me the other day. He goes, "Don't quit your job until you have another job, but never stop looking for that next job, because you got to level up in life if you're going to be happy." There's something about our monkey brain and the sense of surviving that you want to keep evolving once you do.
That's really good advice. So to liken what you're saying about your half hour, you have a half hour set, half hour of music, but you took an hour set. This new building I'm doing, it's 8,000 square feet. It's 3x any budget I've ever had. I mean, it's a big deal. It's overwhelming for me, right? I try not to think about it, right? Because like if I sit here and think about, man, for a year straight, if we kill it, we're going to spend all this money and it's 9 bathrooms, 9 kitchens. I mean, like literally, dude, it's huge, man. This thing's
fuck.
I gave that contractor I told you may or may not show up to work today. I took him and his buddy through earlier today, and they're like, dude, this place is huge. It just keeps going and going and going and going. It's massive, and I have to get the whole thing rebuilt.
Yeah.
Every inch of it.
Yeah, so tell me about the history of that building, though. So this is the Moorlines Mansion, the folks that opened up that log company. What were they before they were a beer company?
So from what I understand, I don't know the whole story. So Over the Rhine is a German neighborhood, okay? It's called Over the Rhine because German immigrants came from Germany, and they named it after the Rhine River, which is a river in Germany. Yeah. A part of the reason why Over the Rhine looks the way it does, so I think I call it an Italianate architecture, is when they came to the United States, they brought the way they built buildings in that part of Germany with them. They brought their food, they brought their language, they brought, and along with that is they also had a very proud brewing heritage, from what I understand. So the most famous of all the people that I think ever immigrated from Germany to Over the Rhine was a gentleman named Christian Moorline. His brother, he had a brother named Jacob, but this is off topic, but actually, I'll just continue. But Jacob, Christian, from what I understand, he was a very famous brewer. He had a company, I think it was called the Christian Moorline Brewing Company. In 1870, he built an 8,000 square foot house. Dude, it's huge, man. Like literally this massive house that sits up on this hill. But in 1870, this guy, who was really well-to-do, had created this business, made some money. He built this mansion, and that's the building I just bought. And so super cool. I sent you a picture, like part of when we were tearing it out, I just found a bottle that says the Christian Moorline Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. This bottle for sure has been there since 1870, dude, in the ground, right? And it's in perfect shape, And so, but yeah.
Also, that newspaper you pulled out, that's straight German. It's the Enquirer in German. That's so cool.
At the time when Over the Rhine, that newspaper is from 1857, dude. If you can read it, I'll send it to you. It's from May 1st of 1857. Literally, it's 10 years before the Civil War, right? Like I don't even know who the president was, but it's just like way before Abraham Lincoln. Like this is old as shit, dude. And from what I understand at the time, like there was like an entire little German, like dude, they had like 4 German newspapers circulating in Over the Rhine at the same time. I don't know the whole story, but it's kind of crazy. From what I understand, when World War II was happening, there was like this weird situation where a lot of these people living in Over the Rhine were German. And we were fighting the Germans. And so there was a lot of like spying where the United States government was like very aware of Over the Rhine. And they were very fearful that there was a lot of like espionage going on with Over the Rhine, which is crazy to think about, right? Yeah. Because imagine I just left the United States and I went to, to any country, right? And then my country that I'm from started fighting them. I would have...
And like all your neighbors are like...
Yeah, I would have this weird loyalty, though, too, right? Like, I'm not just going to forget where I'm from or all my buddies. Like, I can understand, why that... But people have no idea, like, the history. Over the Rhine, we live like, right next to this really, really interesting neighborhood.
Yeah.
That has a ton of history to it.
Totally. When as you're taking on a monolith of a project that is just another building in your life, there has to be a conscious thought of how do I preserve some of the integrity and some of the specificity that comes along with that. Because if I'm the one that pulls it all out and guts the place, then we lose that, Sure. If you would have broken that bottle in the meantime or ditched that paper, it's like, well, what the fuck's that worth?
Yeah, and that's the art. So we're doing a multifamily. When you're doing a single family and a multifamily, they might as well be completely different jobs. Like every apartment we do has to be fire rated. All the doors are fire rated. We basically have to build 9 fire rated capsules in the building. So if apartment 6 catches on fire, the people in apartment 5 have 2 hours to get out of it. Like, so what I'm getting at is it's really, really hard. We're going to do our best. And this thing's going to be badass when we're done with it. But we can't keep the old doors we pulled out that are from 1857 or from 1870.
Yeah.
we can't use them.
Totally.
Because we have to have fire-rated doors. You know what I'm saying? And
but they can go somewhere where hopefully they find some.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to save as much trim as we can. The original staircase we're saving.
The thing I respect him most, every single brick he collected. And you saw on Instagram, it's like these are worth $1 or $2. But what's it worth to the facility itself? It's like,
I want those bricks to stay there, right?
Hundreds of years ago, someone crafted these bricks
by hand.
Yeah, and said this will be the home of someone that I work for and respect. I don't want Christian living in some half-assed home. This is a pimp and crib, you know?
Right now in 2023, I drive to Lowe's, dude, and I've got crazy tools, man. I have a tool for everything. We have this Arbortech, which is this machine that like pops bricks out of the walls. It's a German fancy company. We've got Sawzalls, and we got literally a tool for everything, man. Yeah. We've got welders and power washers, and these people, when they were building this building in 1870, like I don't even think they had they had hand tools, right? Like the freaking basement of this thing, it's all stone, right? Every stone you see, I think, was brought there like by a horse, I'm assuming, right? And then it's all hand chiseled, right? Like now we pour concrete foundations. Literally, you just take a form and you just pour a foundation. But like back then, they used to literally take thousands and thousands of rocks and trim them. I'm telling you, if you look down this rock wall, dude, it is perfect. It's insane, man.
Yeah. And the respect for that craftsmanship only comes when you're trying to modernize. And it's like, not only has this lasted, it's better than what we would have done today. And you as an individual could be one of the few that can testify to the beautiful craftsmanship and work and love that gets poured into someone's home like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, when we demoed this place, we had a bobcat that was scooping stuff up. I'll send you a video of that too. Scooping stuff up and putting it in dumpsters. I mean, like what we do is impressive in a way, but like, imagine building this thing in 1870 without a bobcat.
Yeah, with a fucking horse.
With a fucking horse, right? And
that needs a water break like
I
everyone else.
get in a brand new Honda Ridgeline, I zip up to Lowe's, and I've got a pro account there, and I'm got this thing on wheels, and I'm putting insulation and boards on. Like, dude, like we got it good, man.
Yes.
Imagine back then, like, imagine your horse, is sick, or like. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's fascinating thinking like how they built this thing.
Well, here's a weird caveat. So my Nana grew up in the beautiful Irish neighborhood of Mount Adams when she was a little girl. And her dad worked for the Cincinnati fire stations. He was part of one of the last horse-drawn fire trucks in the city that's now in like the Cincinnati Firemen's Museum.
That is cool.
And during, I forget when the Great Fire happened, but there was a huge fatality rate from these sweeping fires that happened in the city. And my grandpa, I guess that'd be my great-grandpa, got put in a pile of dead bodies, and there's a priest going by doing the blessing, just looking at stacks of people, and he sees a foot wiggling. And this was my great-grandfather who had still made it but was unconscious because of this, and they pulled him out. And it's like, again, we have it so good. And if we just
it's too good.
If we look at this country as something that's too far gone to fix the way that we kind of make it out to be sometimes, then we lose all the love and sweat equity that got poured in here by immigrating ancestors of ours that for some reason jumped across an ocean to see it better, know?
And we could spend hours just talking about just this exact topic. I mean, you got these little kids that are just staring at iPads all day long, and it's a very complex topic, but all these different, there's 100 different genders and this, and it's like, man, like if you grew up on a dirt floor in Honduras, like I promise you, your pronouns are not gonna be as important to you. You know what I'm saying? Like life in America is so goddamn good.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
And I think a lot of the fixation we have today about identity is that folks don't feel it right now. They have a hard time of finding out who they are, and I respect everyone's plight in that regard of how you get there. But sometimes you just need to put certain questions of the self on the back burner. It's like, in my mind, the reason we have religion is to calm some of the existential questions of where we go after this.
It's like, uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it's like, so if I can say it's heaven or hell, then at least I know I just got to try my best while I'm here.
And it'll be good.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get over that question because there's no set answer. There's no set answer to who you are or who I am. So let's just accept where you are, what you're doing, and step forward with that rather than spinning in the same loops of what and why and how.
Yeah. And I empathize when I meet somebody that's 36 years old and they don't really know kind of what they're doing or what they want to do, I empathize. I don't think like, oh, that's a loser. I think like I'm very fortunate that like I found the things I want to do, but I've been developing this path in my life since I was a little kid, like when I was on sports teams and socializing and doing this and that, like, I feel like my life has been like a culmination of, I don't know, like I remember being, I had a really, really uncomfortable time when I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. My dad was successful, and I would often go to dinner with my dad, and I would say, hey, I was very worried that like I was going to work for a company one day, back when I thought everybody had to work for a company, right? And I thought like, when you take this company over, when you become the CEO of a company or the president of a company, how does that happen? Like, does it just so somebody liked you, right? Is it just somebody liked you so they promoted you or whatever? And like, I don't think that I realized that the same skills that I was using to be the captain of a sports team when I was 13 years old, the same thing that allowed me to never know any of these kids. And I showed up in a car, my dad dropped me off. I walked to this field. I didn't know anybody. And within 3 weeks, I was like the guy that like people looked up to. I was the best player, whatever. Those are the same skills that allow people to rise to the top in a corporation as well. Mm-hmm. And so I used to have a ton of anxiety, man, before I knew what I was going to do with my life. I was like, man, my friends, dads, or mothers that are successful in life, that make good money, to send these kids to good schools, whatever. I had a lot of concern about like, how did that happen? And like, I didn't put enough, I didn't believe enough that like, when you are smart and you work hard and you communicate well, like it just will happen, granted, some people get handed breaks and, their dad starts the company and totally. they get, an easier ride, but like,
generational opportunities are super real, and that's a different ethical conundrum. But the thing about that we got here is opportunity, and not many places have mobility in their class system. That's rigid in a lot of places. You look at a place like India, where if you're born in the bottom caste, you will not make it out, and that's
nuts. But that's why when Indians come to the United States, dude, when I film an Indian wedding, and they got the name tags up of everybody at the wedding, I swear to you, 30% of the wedding are all medical doctors. It's insane, dude. Mm-hmm. And that's why Harvard's got different admission standards for Indians, and that's a real thing. Like literally, Harvard got in trouble for like, it was proved that like, if you're Indian, like it's harder for you to get into Harvard.
Indian and Asian students were given a stigma, and it's like
because they come to the United States, dude, and they
dominate.
They crush it, man.
Yeah.
They study all day long, because when you come from a country with 1 billion people, right, and it's so competitive and there's so many poor people, and like there is similar to my Hondurans that I work with, like there is a level of grit and, and competition and discipline that like you don't get going to St. X High School, like it's just, I don't know, like life is so good here.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that your parents and my parents, and I think most parents that have enough freedom and capacity in their life to say, what's going to make my kid successful, they push them to sports and things like that because they're merit-based systems. You get in the game if you worked hard enough to be better than that guy. And there's two ways that can play out. You either get better and you get the spot, or you don't get better and you don't get the spot. And both of those lessons are equally valuable. Sure. But as our culture turns towards participation trophies and not trying to make people feel like they're at the bottom of the rung, there becomes this false sense of everyone deserves the exact same outcomes of their efforts.
And that's very complex too, because right, I excelled athletically from the time I was literally 2 years old. Like I rode a bike without training wheels, like when I was super tiny, dude. Like I've always ran really well. My parents would come outside. I was climbing the house. Like literally, I was gifted physically from a young child. So like I always did well in sports because I was gifted physically. So I can understand why like I learned what I did from sports. But I'd like to think that if you aren't gifted physically, there's other ways to learn some of the things I learned maybe in sports or maybe in something else. Like I was thinking about this the other day. When I was a kid, dude, I would go on my bike. First of all, I was very fortunate. I was the third of 4 kids. I had 0 rules, like legitimately 0 rules. I mean, you know,
That's
like,
why you had a liquor franchise.
yeah, I mean, like my parents were awesome, dude. I wouldn't change anything about my childhood. My parents knew from dealing with me that like he'll be fine and he'll come home. And like, I swear to you, I would get on my bike after school and I would ride my bike 20 miles away from my parents' house. They had no idea where I was. Like I was going through woods, through dirt ramps. Like when I sit here and think about it now, like the things I was doing when I was 12 years old on my bike, like it's insane, dude. I was 20 miles away with no cell phone. Nobody had any clue where I was. But like my parents knew that like you could throw me in the woods and like I'm coming home. Eventually when it got dark, Michael will walk in the door.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like when I was out riding my bike around, had nobody watching me, no cell phone, you know, like I started developing some of these skills that were going to eventually equate to, hey, you've got this 8,000 square foot building that needs completely gutted, completely put back together. You got 20 people here. 10 of them speak English. 10 of them don't speak English. You got a Bobcat that just broke because it's, you know, it's old. And then you got to go get a new one. Like my job is chaos. Okay. But like the same things that I learned, I guess what I'm getting at is like, man, if you got this child and you know, and you're keeping them in this tiny little confined box and they're staring at an iPad screen all day long. And, you know, like you're not letting them get out there and learn and, you know, come home 10 minutes after curfew and then fall in the creek and their shoes soaked. And like, you're not going to have a child that is going to like have what it takes to like do something cool.
Yeah. Well, I think as our knowledge of dangers in the world has grown through the internet, you know, there's a lot of fearful scrolling that goes on. And I think being a parent amplifies that because you worry about this person that you've nursed from every drink they had and every bit of food that went in their mouth to letting go completely and letting them be their own person. Like, you're not a parent, I'm not a parent. The thing I fear most about parenting is learning how to let go.
I can only imagine. I mean, yeah. I think that there's a level of love associated from what I hear from my friends. When you have a child, like, dude, I love my dog. If I had a newborn and my dog bit my child, I would drown that dog. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I think there's a level of love associated with like your own child that, from what I understand, it's like you can't explain it.
Yeah, there's some chemistry there, but I think the same thing goes for every time that you see that child get abducted.
However, you know, I grew up with people. I used to date a girl. She had a lot of rules. You know, and she went away to college and
broke all.
She was wild.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I'm saying? Because I lost privileges when I went to college. Like, dude, I had no freaking rules. I literally had a party whenever I wanted to have it. But at the same time, I got good grades. I was a good athlete. I went to college. I was doing what I needed to do. So my parents were like, hey, like, he's good. You know, he will come home tonight. And he'll be in one piece and he's really street smart. And like, we don't need to worry about him. But my parents, I think too, if they had another child, which I think all 4 of us are kind of similar, that like, if we had another child that was less street smart, that needed a little more, you know, curtailing, then like, I think it's not that my parents were reckless, but my parents like knew that like I was the way I was. Like,
yeah,
literally I was 4 years old in a creek alone. And like, my brother has twins, dude. Those kids would never go in a creek alone. They're like 7, right? Yeah. And like, I can think of no scenario where those kids are in the woods alone. Never, ever in 100 years. Dude, I was 5 miles away in a tunnel that if it rained would overflow. And like, I'm running through these tunnels and I'm 8 years old, right? And like, but now when I'm 35 and like, it's not overwhelming for me to embark upon this building that's going to take a year and be almost 7 figures in terms of our development on it. Just in the renovation. It's like, because like I've been doing chaotic stuff my whole life with a lot of responsibility, didn't really have, you know, granted my parents, they sent me to awesome schools and anything I needed, you know, I was typically able to get within means, but like I didn't have, my mom wasn't cutting the toast off of the crust off of my sandwiches when I was a little kid. Like I was a rough kid, man. I grew up in the woods, covered in dirt and, building bow and arrows and, building forts and starting fires and but all of those things I learned growing up, being a wild child, I feel like it's allowed me to come into any scenario in life and say, hey, this guy's a general contractor. Well, why can he do that and I can't? You know, hey, this guy's a videographer. I'm interested in film. Why can't I become a videographer?
Yeah.
Well,
I think the freedom to see something and go do it. Again, when you grow up in a household where everything you want to do, you must ask permission, you get used to that cycle.
But that's a skill. Seeing something and telling yourself you can go do it.
Yeah.
That's a skill that I know people that want to do things. They're interested in real estate. They are, and they have enough money, but they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I don't know why. Maybe they have full-time jobs and they don't have the time or whatever, but there's something about certain people in this world. They think they can do things and certain people think they can't.
Yeah. Well, I think there's people on both sides of the coin. There's people that never take step towards things that they want to do. And then there's folks that time after time uproot their entire life for slim to none opportunities, and they don't know how to take small steps forward. They're always one step forward, two steps back. They don't know how to get out of that cycle. And I think a healthy amount of risk as a young person teaches you to weigh those risks. You don't go run in the tunnel the day that's flooding.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you've seen that shit and you know you would get whooped for it. Okay, so how do you gauge the things that you want to do versus the things you do? You must fall on your face in that.
Yeah. And paralysis by analysis is definitely a thing. I know a guy, he's been in Over the Rhine for as long as I have. And he's also interested in real estate. In the amount of time that he's done one building, I have probably done 30 apartments. Okay. And I'll never forget, my friend bought a building and turned it into 3 condos. And he sold the 3 condos and made a profit of a couple $100,000. He did really well in this building. I don't do that. I keep them and rent them and make money long term. But I'll never forget, this guy heard what my friend paid for the building, and he was like, "Man, he paid $15,000 more than he should for the building, and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Dude, he made $250. He not worried about that." But I guess what I'm getting at is this guy. He is a sideliner, dude. He just hangs out on the sidelines and thinks he knows about everything. And he looks at the building and says, "Oh, I'm only a buyer at." It's meanwhile, I've done 7 buildings since you've done 1 because you just hang out and you analyze and overanalyze and run the numbers and rerun the numbers. And it's I've already done 4 by the time you've done that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I think that the market rewards a little bit of reckless behavior.
Totally.
There's people in my career field that are moving to Nashville every single day because they see that the top 10% are coming out of that scene.
Totally.
Versus I want to dominate right where I am.
Totally.
There's differences in the way that people play that, and does it make them a sideliner? If you participate in the game, it doesn't matter if you're playing rec league or pro. It just matters that you're playing the game. But you can't pretend like you're going to practice every day if you never show up and compete.
Sure. I'm reckless at times, not anymore because I have a business partner and he's way, he's the complete opposite of me in terms of his skill set. He's a numbers guy. He runs, he sends me these Excel forms that I don't even know how to use Excel. It's insane. He's got everything charted and he's great for me because his skill set is the opposite of my skill set.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been reckless in the past. Literally, when I told you I bought that building in that Facebook message, I think I looked at it. I stood outside for, I'm telling you, 5 minutes, wrote some numbers on a piece of paper, and I was like, cool, I'm going to buy it. But at the same time, I was informed enough to not make a mistake. Do you know what I'm saying? I had just done one. I knew what things kind of cost. And so, right, you want to kind of be between paralysis by analysis, right, and being a full-fledged reckless, right, because that's not good either.
Yeah.
And some people lose their ass being like that. But at the same time, I don't know, I sit here and look at businesses that fail and businesses that succeed, right, and it's man, sometimes I hear about these business plans that people that like fail, and I'm like, I could have told you day one, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, how did a bank even finance that? Or, and on the same token, it's like, yeah, they say X amount of businesses fail, but it's like, yeah, but like there also are people that like the same person could have 9 successful businesses, right? And that's not an accident, right? It's because this person is smart, right? And they know what they're doing. They talk to enough people. And inventing a business, man, it's not like, my business partner now, that he used to own the pedal wagon, right? And like they went to a different city that was similar to Cincinnati, Ohio, had a similar climate, a similar person. And they's like, hey, what the hell are these little things that people are riding around on, right? And they're like, fuck, like we should take these to Cincinnati and to Columbus and to Oxford. And like they created a very, successful business. So, sometimes starting a business, man, it's not inventing the wheel. Not everybody is inventing something, right? There's certainly when you see a product that somebody invented, it can be fascinating. Like, wow, how did this person think to create this little tiny thing that like, like seems like we should have had this forever. How did I not think of that, right?
Well, they saw the consumers and they made the service,
Correct.
And I think that there's something odd for the artists of the world that you are the consumer of the shit you make. Like if I don't love a song that I wrote, I'm not showing it to anybody. But I'm also trying to get to a point where I don't judge what comes out of my own mouth because I'm waiting to see what it is. If everyone lives in a constant fear that they're never going to amount to the thing that they want to amount to, if you never take that first step, then it's all for nothing. If you end up just being a cog in some kind of corporate business and you always aspired for more, you're not going to get more fulfilled over time. The money in your retirement account's not going to satisfy you. The position that they give you that's just nominal and doesn't give you any say in what happens, it's going to leave you empty.
Mm-hmm. And money, look, I hope that one day, the reason why I do what I do is not for money, but like I've also thought about this too. Say I do have kids one day and I am wealthy, maybe one day. Raising kids while wealthy, I feel like that's a skill set too. It's really, in order to raise children, if you are wealthy, in order to raise children that grow up wealthy and have them turn out well, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Some people are good at it. My dad was a business partners with a guy that his children grew up very, very wealthy. You would have no idea. On the contrary, I was actually talking today with some people. We have some friends. Their family kind of creeps me out a little bit because they are very wealthy and like it seems like they kind of had these arranged wealthy marriages. It's kind of strange, but
those are definitely the creepiest weddings to work.
Yeah, like we don't know if this one girl. We don't know if she's ever had a job. She's in her 30s. You know what I'm saying? And like, I was just sitting there, I thought about that today and I was like, man, imagine like, I don't know if I don't know. We're going to find out, but like, we don't know if she's ever had a job. You know what I'm saying? And like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And
as much as that affluence might make them happy for minutes at a time, you don't sleep well with that kind of lifestyle. At least I don't think so. But so I can tell you very confidently that I grew up in a household where my mom got to stay home because my dad busted his ass working for a company called Cintas in sanitation, doing something that was not very sexy to most people, but he wanted to raise his kids a certain way, and he set out to do it, and I am the very grateful recipient of that kind of thing. And when we were talking the other day, he said a lot of great things to me, but the thing that I told him that I want most out of my financial life is to reciprocate what I've been given in that, because it wasn't like anytime I asked for something it got given to me, but there was food to be had, there was opportunities to be taken,
schools to have gone to,
exactly,
private schools, as did I.
And I didn't stress whether there was going to be a quality of life every day when I woke up, and that's not because of the financial ability. It was their personal dedication, making sure that I turned out an individual that got to follow their dreams. And it's like, what's that worth on a nominal level? can't even imagine.
Yeah, but all you need to do, I grew up in a very similar, I just need to acknowledge and be grateful, right? So like, you know, like I'm to the age now where like at some point I'm going to like look to my dad, right? And say, hey, like, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only that, but like, thank you for being, my dad woke up every single morning at 4:20 without an alarm clock. Like, I swear to you. And a lot of times we would have to like stop partying because we like knew my dad was getting up soon. Like I watched a guy for however long, literally decades, wake up. When you witness that, I don't know. It's like I really empathize sometimes. Like I witnessed a human being as a child growing up, doing what he did. And like if I didn't witness him being the way he was, like I don't know, maybe my work ethic would be different. I don't know. Yeah. Right. And like I can understand why like some people say it's so important to have a father figure or to be like, I don't know. Like if I didn't have my dad be who he was and watch how he was and watch how he handled his life and watch kind of how he worked, like I don't know, maybe I would have turned out probably completely different.
Yeah. Well, there's the nature and there's nurture. It's like there's something in you that makes you that gung-ho, but that could be about anything, you know, that it for all of us it could be a drinking problem or a working problem, you know. It's the way you choose to indulge in this life.
A drinking problem or a working problem. That's the perfect way to say it.
Well, and that's not true for some folks that have unfortunate genetic dispositions towards, but again, it's like
the same thing that allows you to hyper focus on something. A lot of times you can get into gambling, right? Or you can, you know, honestly, dude, I don't gamble because I think I would like it.
Yeah.
You know, like and the same thing that allows me to walk up to a building and say, hey, 8,000 square feet, huge. It's going to cost a bunch of money. I would have to get obsessed with this thing for 12 months to get it done. I'm worried that like that same could happen with like something bad.
But thankfully you're filling that need by gambling on yourself in these investments, and you gamble on every employee you bring in that they're going to do the job well. It's like life is about reinvesting in that kind of a way. But one thing that I've found very recently in my life is through my partner, with the proposition of getting married to this girl that is for sure the love of my life. It's like my capacity to want to work harder and better has gone up at least 100% because she makes me see this,
not just for you,
right? This crazy joyous future where I want to give my kids a lifestyle that I enjoyed, and I want them to have the same fever for life that I'm growing up with, and not fall into these fickle pursuits of my friends that I see who they're 30 something, 20 something, and they don't know why they get up every day. Yeah. And I feel for that. That is a tough type of way of living that the modern age does allow us to fall into. I ain't one of those. I wake up hungry. I wake up crazy.
Well, you touched on people like finding happiness in money. This building, I will eventually make money on it.
Yeah.
But that's not even why I'm like when you do hard things, right? Like I find that my happiness is really dependent on like me. I don't do well just hanging out in life. Like right now, like if I'm not doing something crazy with my life, I don't feel alive. You know, like if I'm not renovating a huge building, or I've got this super hard, or I'm filming 42 weddings in 12 months, or if I'm not doing something that is a lot of work, I feel weird, you know? And like, but I don't know, I guess what I was getting at is like, I never even like thought to look to money for happiness. But what I find is that like when I do something really challenging and I beat it day after day after day after day, like tomorrow, we're going to level the floors in the back of the building, in the front. I already know exactly what we're going to do tomorrow. I will go to bed tomorrow night more content, more happy, having gone at a day and won the battle day after day after day after day. You know what I'm saying? Like tomorrow will be a happy day for me because I know that I'm going to win. You know what I'm saying? And then the next day I'm going to win again. And it's like, I can't imagine like having a life where like you're not having all these little battles and you keep winning and taking joy out of it. Like if you were literally like, you know, looking to a car or, you know, something or a girl or something to make you happy, that would be a really strange existence in my opinion.
Yeah, but a lot of people are living it. I just had a weird thought about booze in particular. Like we've all tasted booze for the first time and been like, that shit's disgusting. But there's like this,
some of us
it hurts and then it feels good. It's like there's something about us that likes discomfort and then alleviation. Music is dissonance and then consonance. And if you let your vices take control of you in that kind of a way, whether it's smoking and you like the feeling of getting high from that, or you're looking at like, I've never done a pull up in my life and I want to get to 10. There's the same mechanism going off. So you just need to be a little bit above your primate brain to say, I know what's going to pay off well for me in the long run. And it's not the fickle. If it feels good to save up for a car and to buy that car because it feels good to wait and do something. But if you had the money for it and you just bought it because you thought it'd fix you, well, the day it shows up in your driveway is the last moment you give a shit about it, because then you just drive it like any other whip,
Yeah, that's so true. Like, yeah, when you work hard for something, I collect watches. And like, when I buy a watch, sometimes it's like the money that I made to pay for the watch was a result of like working on a building, or and the watch means more to me because like like my dad didn't just I didn't just take some money out of a trust fund, and you know what I'm saying, like I worked hard for that watch, or but I don't know, I just earlier I was like, does this girl, has she ever had a job? You could go back to that, and I was like, man, that's insane to think about that. Like, there are people in affluent communities in this country that literally their entire lives may have never had a job. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And
their children might be able to do that same thing, because there's something about having money where you get free shit. I don't really get that, but a lot of people live that.
Well, that money keeps, Joe Burrow is going to sign a contract here soon, and the Burrows are going to be trying to spend that money 300 years from now.
Yeah.
They just are.
Yeah.
Because money keeps growing and growing and growing. But the Burrows, not to talk, but like, my guess is that family will do fine with it, because like, Joe Burrow's not a money kind of guy. His parents don't seem like that.
He's earning that cash based off concussions he could have got. You know what I mean? Like, I think professional sports is one of the places you see most clearly, one, the mobility that we have in this country, but the things people will put themselves through to get to the top. And there's a reason that most of these guys spend that money when they get there, because every ounce of sweat poured from age 6 to 21 was about finding that financial freedom, and they didn't have the wherewithal to know that wouldn't last, or they just wanted to indulge in the thing that they felt like they've earned. But indulgence is something to train like that, like what's enough? One bite of ice cream or 2 bowls, know?
Do you watch football ever?
I'm not a sports person at all.
Yeah. So, just touch on it for a second. So I'm a big Bengals fan, and we are so spoiled. Well, we sucked for the longest time, right? It was super frustrating, but we've got this Joe Burrow right now. He is, Matt, it's hard to explain. He has this X factor to, if it's 3rd and 9, he expects to get it. Yeah. Like he has this really unique aspect to his brain where he's he wants to cut his grass better than you. He wants to beat you at everything, right? Yeah. And like, that could kind of, in some people, kind of become like a dick kind of thing, where like just people don't really want to be around you because you either are competing in everything or you're always winning. But like, I'm telling you, dude, the Bengals are going to win a Super Bowl at some point, and it's because of him. Because he has this ultra, there's a video online you can find. So he originally went to Ohio State, right? He was at Ohio State, and they were doing this, they do this drill where the team is like gathered around, just a bunch of giant guys. And then what they do is they put a tire in the middle of this big circle, and then 2 guys grab a side of the tire, and they try to drag the other guy out of the circle, right? And there's a video, and I think the guy Burrow was going up against played in the NFL as a defensive back for like several years. This is like a strong dude. And so there's like a part where Joe falls down and the guy's dragging him, and then Joe gets back up and ends up dragging this guy out of the circle. And I'm like, that's our quarterback. Like, the fact that like he fell down and like didn't freak out, and like that video showed me more about him in like, 30 seconds than like I could have ever wanted to know about Andy Dalton or about, you know what I'm saying? Because like I was like, man, like this guy fell, was getting dragged, got back up, didn't doubt himself. Like that is, to me, indicative of like continual success, continual ability to prevail in front of competition. Because like he has characteristics that like, dude, if Joe Burrow wasn't dominating football, like he'd be dominating something else.
Yeah.
And there's people like that in this world. Like, dude, if Elon Musk wasn't doing PayPal and Tesla and SpaceX, like it'd be 4 other things, dude. It just would, you know? And the same way that's true for him. It's true that somebody else can habitually fail over and over and over again. Like, dude, I hear about some of these business plans and I'm like, oh, there's a freaking candy store right by Finley Market. I live a block from Finley Market. And like, there was this candy store that like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's not enough foot traffic here. Like Finley Market popular, like on the weekends.
Yeah. Sundays.
On Saturday and Sunday, it's awesome. And I like to go up there, but like Tuesday right now, if I go and walk down my house, a block from my house, like there's just kind of suppliers for the restaurants parking and bringing in food. People might be strolling in like right before a Reds game every now, but like, I'm like, who is eating candy? Like people are eating candy less.
Yeah.
B, this is the land of like having everything shipped to your house. C, candy is like for kids a lot of times. And like, this is like a bad neighborhood, right? You know, like I was just like, I ran through this and in 30 seconds, I was like, I could have told you in 4 minutes, this is a horrible business idea. And like, it's not there anymore, obviously, but like that same goofball that like was like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like they probably are going to have 4 other bad ideas too. You know what I'm saying? They just need, but that's not an ID person. Like that person needs to get grouped with another person that is a good idea person. Right. And so I don't know.
You need to balance yourself with folks of different talents. And, you know, to one thing you said earlier, communication is everything. But also diversity in your portfolio is what keeps the boat afloat on bad days. So finding people that you don't agree with, that you love being around, is a huge part of forming character and forming teams and forming opportunities that we can move forward with. Because you can't have 5 quarterbacks trying to be on the O-line. It's like you need 1 quarterback and 5 linemen who have many of these.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I grew up on sports teams. I'll never forget, I overslept one time. First of all, I'm never late to anything. I hate to be late. And for some reason in college, I played lacrosse in college. I went to my parents' house and spent the night. And I think I like told my mom to wake me up at a certain time. And she ended up, it was late. Right. And I freaked out. I flew to college, got to this practice. And I swear to you, dude, I ran for 2 hours. Swear to you. Like my coach said, I just start running around the track. And I'm telling you, dude, I ran for 2 hours. And like, I was a really good player. I'm sure they would have rather have me at practice, like inside practice and running. But like, it taught me, right? Like that whole experience about being late and, you know, relying on somebody and them letting you down. And, but like, I need to not put it taught me like, dude, don't put yourself in a position where like you're relying on your mom to wake you up, right? Like, you know, either stay at home in your own place, set your own alarm, whatever. Like, you know, sometimes I'd be playing sports as a kid and, you know, he'd say, hey, you know, we got to run again because this guy didn't touch the line. It's like, are we going to win another? Like, yeah, like his foot was 3 inches short, but like the coach told you to touch the line. You didn't do it, right? And as a result, sometimes what they do, it's dick, but like they'll make the person that didn't touch the line watch while the rest of the team runs.
Oh, bro,
and
that's so sadistic.
Dude, I've done it. I've been the guy before. And I've been hundreds of times, I've been the guy that touched the line and pissed at that guy, right? But like it teaches you like, man, like, so years down the road when you're working for a company or when you're doing this or you're doing that and you're told you got to do something, you do it, right? Because like when you were 13 years old, you had this coach that was, you know, an enforcer that told you to do something that like, so I don't, dude, life is a series of victories, losses, learn, you know, love, you know, like, and I don't know. I feel like the thing we can do, you know, to kind of circle this back, but like if you have kids and you want to hopefully, I thought about this the other day, like we have 4 kids. My brother's the CEO of a company. he literally has like hundreds of people that work for him. He's 40 years old, and he's done very well in his life. My younger sister's a PhD psychologist. She's a doctor. She's brilliant. My other sister, she's got a big job. She's a nurse on a heart floor down in Florida. I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I really do think my parents could have had 8 kids, and all 8 turned out pretty good. The same could be said for another family that could have 9 kids that all turn out to be shitheads, right? And like, I don't know like how it works, but like there are absolutely decisions that are made raising children that like do funnel them toward having the skills to fend for themselves, right? Yeah. And the same could be said for the opposite. And it's not always just about money. It's not just because I went to St. X or because I, went to McNick or I went to a private college. It's like part of me running through that tunnel when I was 7 years old, right? When like I have learned tons of different things every day, thousands and thousands of days. I've learned skills and I don't know. I guess like I've just been thinking about lately about like how I got to where I am. Like, yeah, like how did I get here? How did I, like when we go to this building, like I'm the one that owns it. I'm not just here to like hang drywall, or I'm not just here. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did I, go film a wedding and like, it's my company and these people are here to help me. Like I've been kind of sitting here and kind of reflecting on, Dr. Joe, dude, he's my buddy, man, my best buddy. He was telling me he kind of started having a lot of, what's the term they use when he kind of like looked at his first house, and he's a surgeon and he's got this beautiful home. What is that called? Something, when you're like, you don't feel like you like deserve things.
I know what you mean, but I don't know the word.
I forget the term, but he's like, dude, I've been having a lot of this, where he kind of like started to think like, man, like I'm a surgeon, dude, and I've got like my first home is like a 7,500 square foot home, and I've got nice things. I just bought a brand new truck, and like, but I'm like also like, dude, like you can't imagine like what went into getting you to here.
Yeah, and even we can forget about those things, but I think that the fact that you take the time to consider it and to keep turning over opportunities for yourself and other people is a testament to who you are. And every time you come on the show, you get me fired the fuck up, brother. So keep coming back. And if there's anything you'd like to conclude with telling the people, please do so.
No.
Again, follow him at Mike Basch, everybody. Mike.Basch, B-A-S-C-H.
Yeah. If you're into... Primarily, sometimes people are like, do you even film weddings still? Because like primarily what I post is just like construction stuff.
It's badass. Yeah. They can hire you for their wedding if they need that.
Yeah, but, I will film your wedding, but I also...
I'm sure you'll find other services to do too.
We tear up old buildings and over the Rhine. And the cool thing is I'm a videographer too, so I'd like to think that like what I'm showing on my stories, you can tell that like I'm good at knowing story and sequence and, the way to find light. And so like, I think it's just a perfect marriage of like having an interest in construction and also like knowing how to like capture that.
Yeah. Build your own path, baby. Mike Basch telling you about it. You are the man. Thanks for coming on again, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Peace, players.